You think you can laugh at me? Watch closely. Lily Harper adjusted the crisp white apron over her shoulders as she moved silently through the sleek, marble-floored restaurant, the aroma of freshly brewed espresso curling in the air around her. The afternoon sun glinted off the polished silverware, casting sharp reflections across the dining tables where wealthy patrons sipped lattes and exchanged business pleasantries. Her footsteps were quiet, almost musical against the hardwood, unnoticed by most, but each step carried a rhythm of quiet confidence. She paused briefly to refill a glass of water at a table near the corner, her eyes scanning the room not for gossip or idle chatter, but for subtle shifts in body language and expression. Alexander Vaughn strode in, the kind of man whose presence demanded attention, his tailored navy suit impeccable, polished leather shoes clicking decisively with each step. Heads turned, whispers followed, and Lily's gaze followed him with a measured curiosity, noting the faint crease of impatience on his brow and the tightness in his jaw that betrayed a man used to absolute control. A laugh, sharp and dismissive, broke her focus momentarily as he glanced toward her, a mocking tilt to his perfectly trimmed eyebrows, the corners of his mouth curling with condescension as he imitated her soft, careful enunciation of the menu items. Lily's lips curved slightly, not with offense, but with a knowing patience that seemed to slow the air around her. She continued her task, pouring coffee and setting down plates with a precision that made the ritual ordinary, yet unremarkable to those who failed to look closer. She overheard snippets of his conversation with a visiting Japanese executive, catching phrases and tonal inflections that hinted at misunderstandings and misalignments, the kind that could turn a multi-million-dollar deal into a mess of crossed wires. Lily's mind worked silently, cataloging words, gestures, timing, and nuance, her intellect mapping the conversation in perfect clarity even as her outward demeanor remained calm and composed. She moved closer under the guise of serving another table, her presence unnoticed as she listened and mentally prepared the correct translation, anticipating the exact moment when her intervention would matter most. Alexander's confident voice faltered mid-sentence as the executive raised a subtle brow, signaling confusion over a clause regarding delivery timelines. Lily's heart beat steady, not with fear, but with focused determination. She stepped lightly to the side, unobtrusive, and began articulating the negotiation in flawless Japanese, every nuance conveyed with precision, her voice soft yet authoritative enough to capture the attention of all in the room. Eyes widened, mouths parted in polite astonishment, and Alexander's gaze locked with hers, a flicker of disbelief crossing his features. He opened his mouth, perhaps to assert dominance, but no words came. Instead, he simply absorbed the quiet brilliance that stood before him, realizing that the woman he had underestimated held the key to the success he had assumed was his alone. Lily smiled faintly, just a twitch of her lips, enough to acknowledge the moment without breaking her composure, and returned to her duties, the subtle shift in power hanging in the air like an unspoken truth, as if the room itself had paused to recognize the quiet ones are never truly ordinary. The room settled into a careful quiet, a low hum of conversations, and the occasional clinking of cutlery forming a backdrop to Lily Harper's focused observation. She adjusted the tray in her hands, weighing each movement, aware that every subtle gesture could speak volumes in a place where appearances and precision defined status. Alexander Vaughn, seated at the corner table, ran a polished hand along the edge of his leather-bound portfolio, scanning numbers and notes while maintaining a posture that radiated authority. Yet beneath the confidence, his eyes flickered with an unease he did not wish to show, a gap that Lily noticed without a word. She approached his table with the smooth fluidity of someone who had moved through this environment countless times, placing a small carafe of water and a perfectly aligned set of glasses down with a light touch. She spoke softly, a casual comment about the quality of the roast, her voice carrying an accent that Alexander had mocked earlier, but it was the clarity and choice of words that caused a microsecond pause in his expression. Across the room, the Japanese executive adjusted his glasses, signaling a misinterpretation of a delivery timeline, and Alexander's brow furrowed as he struggled to recalibrate mid-conversation. Lily's mind raced silently, connecting phrasing, tone, and subtle nonverbal cues, mapping the exact intent of the discussion in a language that was not her own to speak publicly. When the right moment arrived, she leaned just slightly, offering a flawless translation of the critical clause, her pronunciation precise, her cadence steady, allowing no room for ambiguity. Heads turned. The executive nodded in agreement, and Alexander's face registered a slow dawning of comprehension, a reluctant acknowledgement that he had underestimated her insight. Lily returned to her original position behind the counter, fingers brushing the polished surface almost unconsciously, maintaining the veneer of ordinary service while the room now hummed with a new, silent tension. Alexander's eyes sought hers across the space, a mixture of astonishment and something more reflective, a recognition that competence and value had revealed themselves in the quietest of forms. She moved on to check another table, adjusting a napkin here, pouring another cup there, all with the same deliberate care, yet the atmosphere had shifted. The previous arrogance had softened into cautious respect, the realization that brilliance often came wrapped in unexpected packages settling over the gathering. Lily's thoughts remained unspoken, a quiet satisfaction radiating from her calm demeanor as the business at hand proceeded smoothly, each participant now aligned not by intimidation or dominance, but by the subtle clarity she had introduced. The light from the afternoon sun played across the polished surfaces, highlighting small gestures, the tilt of a head, the pause before a reply, the fleeting but impactful shift that had occurred without a single raised voice. In that moment, Lily Harper existed fully in her own competence, every action measured, every observation precise, and the room acknowledged the presence of a quiet force whose influence required no announcement. The meeting continued with a tension that was invisible to most, but palpable to those attuned to subtle shifts. Lily Harper moved between tables with quiet precision, her hands steady, her posture relaxed yet purposeful, a contrast to the undercurrent of anticipation that hung in the air. Alexander Vaughn glanced at his notes again, trying to recalibrate, but the clarity he needed was already present in the way Lily had interpreted every nuance of the conversation. She approached the main table once more, her presence almost unnoticed, a whisper of movement that carried authority without force. The Japanese executive spoke with careful deliberation, emphasizing points about logistics and quality, each sentence layered with meaning that could be lost in translation. Lily listened intently, processing the tonal shifts, the pauses, and the subtle emphasis, reconstructing the intent with a mental clarity that made her next move inevitable. When she finally spoke, her translation was flawless, delivering the content with a rhythm and confidence that left no room for misunderstanding. Alexander's pen hovered above the paper, eyes widening as he followed her words, a realization dawning that this was not a simple correction but a full comprehension that had eluded him moments before. Other diners continued their conversations, but a quiet ripple of acknowledgement moved through the table. Respect, subtle yet undeniable, had shifted. Lily returned to her station, moving with the same grace, adjusting napkins and refilling glasses, yet the energy in the room had changed. Alexander remained seated, absorbing the moment, his posture less rigid, his eyes carrying a new awareness, an acknowledgement of capability that transcended social status or prior judgments. Lily's calm observation continued, catching a misalignment in the seating arrangement of the documents and subtly guiding the executive to the correct order, her assistance invisible in its execution yet powerful in effect. The sun outside dipped slightly, casting a golden glow over the room, highlighting the smooth surface of the tables and the shine on polished cutlery, reflecting a moment where competence spoke louder than authority. Alexander's gaze met hers again briefly, a silent communication passing between them, a recognition that the ordinary could harbor extraordinary depth. Lily moved on, attending to a new table, every motion precise, every glance deliberate, the rhythm of her actions orchestrating an environment where understanding prevailed over assumption. The executive nodded, confirming acceptance of terms, and Alexander leaned back slightly, the tension easing, replaced by a measured respect. No words were exchanged about the change that had occurred. It was felt rather than spoken, an unspoken acknowledgement of intellect and poise. In this quiet cadence of observation and action, Lily Harper continued to embody the presence of someone whose insight and calm decisiveness altered the outcome without fanfare, and the room adjusted to the invisible authority she quietly exerted. The discussion at the main table reached a subtle pause, the Japanese executive reviewing the documents with a meticulous eye, occasionally tapping a pen against the tabletop. Lily Harper remained nearby, moving with quiet fluidity, her hands adjusting glassware, straightening menus, yet her mind remained intensely focused on the rhythm of the conversation. Alexander Vaughn shifted slightly in his chair, his posture still formal but tinged with a newly discovered awareness, a recognition of the depth Lily brought to the room. As the executive spoke again, highlighting potential ambiguities in the delivery schedule, Lily anticipated the moment, her attention capturing every nuance of tone and emphasis, every slight hesitation or stress. She stepped closer with purpose, her voice calm and clear as she offered a refined translation, phrasing each sentence with care to preserve intent and meaning. Alexander followed each word, his expression transforming from surprise to a contemplative admiration, realizing that the accuracy and insight he had relied on himself to provide was now enhanced by Lily's subtle intervention. Other diners continued their meals, but the energy near the table had shifted, a quiet respect settling in, palpable though unspoken. Lily's movements remained understated. She refilled a cup here, aligned a set of utensils there, her presence almost invisible, yet her influence unmistakable. The executive nodded in acknowledgement, the terms of the discussion clarifying in real time, each misunderstanding resolved smoothly. Alexander leaned back slightly, exhaling softly, the tension of prior uncertainty easing into a composed confidence, tempered by the awareness that his initial assumptions had been incomplete. Lily observed all this with her customary calm, noting the alignment of interests and the satisfaction settling into the faces around the table, yet she did not seek acknowledgement or reward. Her satisfaction was quiet, internal, a confirmation of her own competence and poise. The sunlight streaming through the tall windows painted streaks of gold across the polished surfaces, accentuating the subtle choreography of attention, gesture, and understanding that had unfolded without ceremony. Alexander glanced at Lily again, eyes lingering with a respect that no words could convey, recognizing the unassuming power in her quiet intervention. As the discussion moved toward concluding agreements, Lily returned to her original station, her hands arranging final items with precision, her demeanor calm, yet resonant with authority. The room carried on around her, the hum of conversation and clinking silverware now underscored by a new tone, a recognition that influence and insight often come from the most unexpected places. In this unspoken shift of energy, Lily Harper continued to embody a presence that was both ordinary in appearance and extraordinary in effect, a silent testament to the quiet force of intellect and composure in motion. The afternoon light shifted through the tall windows, casting long, warm streaks across the polished marble floors as Lily Harper continued her attentive rounds. Every step she took was measured, silent, yet deliberate, a rhythm that blended seamlessly with the subdued chatter and occasional clink of glassware. Alexander Vaughn observed from his corner, the furrow in his brow softened, a quiet acknowledgement of the clarity and precision Lily had brought to the negotiation. The Japanese executive reviewed a set of updated documents, eyes scanning rapidly, and Lily noted a subtle hesitation in his posture, a brief pause that indicated uncertainty about one clause. With calm confidence, she approached, her hands carrying a fresh set of notes, and spoke in a clear, controlled voice, translating the complex section with meticulous care. Each word fell into place, preserving meaning, tone, and intent, leaving no room for misinterpretation. Alexander leaned slightly forward, his expression a mixture of respect and astonishment, recognizing that the seamless flow of understanding depended entirely on her intervention. Other patrons were unaware of the microcosm of skill unfolding at the table, their attention caught only by the general elegance of the setting, the soft hum of conversation, and the graceful service surrounding them. Lily returned to her station, arranging a small display of desserts with delicate precision, all movements purposeful yet understated, her presence influencing the atmosphere without drawing attention. Alexander caught a fleeting glance from her, a subtle nod, and in that silent exchange, he conveyed an unspoken gratitude, an acknowledgement that her contribution had been indispensable to the resolution. The executive nodded, pen in hand, signing off on the clarified terms, the tension of earlier uncertainty replaced by a calm, mutual understanding. The golden light highlighted the soft sheen of polished wood and the reflective surfaces of silver cutlery, the room itself almost bearing witness to the invisible orchestration of clarity and intellect. Lily moved between tables, adjusting napkins and refilling water glasses, her movements uninterrupted by the significance of her actions, yet every small gesture resonated with influence. Alexander exhaled slowly, his posture relaxing further, the recognition of competence tempered by the humility of the moment, a realization that insight often came from those he had previously overlooked. Lily's mind remained focused, cataloging expressions, timing, and intonation, ensuring that every element of the negotiation remained precise and understood. The room hummed with a newfound order, an unspoken alignment of intention and clarity, and in that quiet, deliberate orchestration, Lily Harper exemplified the subtle power of intellect, observation, and measured action, transforming an ordinary afternoon into a testament of understated mastery. The afternoon light softened, cascading across the gleaming surfaces of the restaurant as Lily Harper moved with quiet intent, each step purposeful yet almost imperceptible. Alexander Vaughn leaned back slightly in his chair, observing the subtle orchestration at play, a mix of admiration and reflective curiosity crossing his features. The Japanese executive, now fully engaged and nodding along with the clarified terms, seemed to find a rhythm in the discussion that had been elusive before. Lily's eyes followed every gesture, every micro-expression, cataloging nuance with a precision that remained invisible to all but herself. She approached a small cluster of documents left slightly askew, straightening them with a delicate touch, her movements almost ceremonial, a dance of control in the space between notice and invisibility. Alexander glanced at her again, a faint recognition of her influence flickering across his face, a momentary acknowledgement that the balance of power had shifted, not through authority or volume, but through intellect and composure. Conversations around the room continued, soft laughter and polite exchanges weaving a tapestry of normalcy, yet beneath it, the subtle currents of change had taken hold. Lily spoke quietly to the executive, offering clarification on a particularly intricate term, her articulation flawless, measured, each word carrying the weight of exact understanding without overt dominance. Alexander's pen paused midair, the realization settling that her insight had not only resolved a potential miscommunication, but had elevated the entire negotiation to a level of seamless comprehension. Other servers moved about, unaware of the quiet mastery unfolding, yet the room seemed to adjust itself around the precision of her actions, the atmosphere, subtly charged with the acknowledgement of capability. Lily returned to her station, arranging silverware with delicate attention, yet every movement was imbued with the weight of influence, her calm presence a guiding force in the space. Alexander's gaze lingered on her, eyes reflecting a new understanding of the depth and subtlety that brilliance could inhabit. The executive smiled, a soft, appreciative gesture, confirming the agreement with ease and certainty that had been absent earlier. The sunlight continued to paint the room in soft hues, highlighting the careful choreography of observation and intervention that had passed almost unnoticed. Lily Harper moved among her duties, a figure of quiet authority, the impact of her actions resonating without the need for recognition or acknowledgement, an unspoken testament to the power of focus, intelligence, and understated presence. In this seamless flow of observation, action, and resolution, the room had shifted imperceptibly yet decisively, each participant realigning their understanding of competence, authority, and respect, all guided by the steady, unassuming hand of Lily Harper. The final moments of the negotiation unfolded with a quiet elegance, the soft light filtering through tall windows highlighting the polished surfaces and casting gentle shadows across the room. Lily Harper moved with an understated confidence, her hands arranging the last set of papers with precise care, each gesture deliberate, each movement reflecting a calm authority. Alexander Vaughn watched her from across the table, his posture slightly more relaxed, a trace of genuine admiration now apparent in the lines of his face. The Japanese executive nodded decisively, pen in hand, signing the final agreement, his demeanor now smooth and assured, the previous tension replaced by clarity and satisfaction. Lily remained poised, observing the subtleties of the room, noting the small shifts in attention, the micro-expressions that revealed the flow of understanding among all parties. Alexander's gaze followed her movements, a quiet respect settling in, an acknowledgement that her intervention had not only ensured success but had done so without fanfare or assertion. Conversations resumed around them, soft laughter and the gentle hum of service staff moving about. Yet the atmosphere carried a subtle undercurrent of recognition, an unspoken acknowledgement of her skill and composure. Lily moved to refill a glass of water, her motions smooth, almost musical, the cadence of her presence influencing the room in ways that were felt rather than articulated. Alexander exhaled, a slight lean forward, as if measuring the magnitude of her impact, the realization that intelligence and grace could command attention without raising a voice settling in fully. The sunlight shifted, illuminating the reflective surfaces of the tables, the glint of silverware echoing the precision of Lily's movements, the harmony of action and effect resonating subtly through the space. She adjusted a folded napkin with exacting care, each crease perfectly aligned, yet it was not the act itself but the steady assurance behind it that conveyed influence. Alexander's eyes met hers for a brief, unspoken exchange, a silent gratitude and acknowledgement of the depth she brought to the room, the kind of recognition that words could not capture. The executive offered a small bow of appreciation, confirming the final details, and Lily returned to her station, her presence steady, unobtrusive, yet undeniably central to the successful conclusion. The hum of the restaurant continued around them, soft background chatter, the clinking of glasses, the faint scent of brewed coffee, all forming a backdrop to a subtle transformation in understanding and respect. In this seamless orchestration, Lily Harper remained the quiet force, her intellect, observation, and precise action shaping outcomes without fanfare, leaving a lingering impression that competence and composure could change the course of events silently, profoundly, and indelibly. The final clarifications were underway, and the atmosphere in the restaurant carried a subtle blend of anticipation and resolution. Lily Harper moved with the same composed precision, her hands arranging the last few cups and glasses, each adjustment deliberate, yet almost invisible to the casual observer. Alexander Vaughn observed the shifts around him, noting the calm control Lily exerted without needing to dominate the space. The Japanese executive examined a set of revised documents, eyes scanning each line with care, and Lily anticipated where questions might arise, positioning herself at the right moment to offer a seamless, accurate interpretation. Her voice, steady and clear, conveyed the necessary meaning with exactness, translating complex nuances in a way that left no room for miscommunication, yet maintained the subtle tone intended in the conversation. Alexander leaned back, a hand lightly brushing his chin as realization spread across his features, the recognition of her skill settling fully into his understanding. Patrons continued their meals, oblivious to the critical interventions that ensured the meeting's success, while the quiet orchestration of Lily's observation and timing shaped the interaction effortlessly. She adjusted a folded napkin on the corner of the table, aligning it with precision, her eyes catching a faint hesitation in the executive's expression and gently guiding the conversation back on track. Alexander's gaze met hers briefly, a silent acknowledgement passing between them, a wordless appreciation of competence exercised with dignity and restraint. The sunlight shifted subtly, reflecting off polished surfaces and creating a warm glow over the assembled tables, emphasizing the careful choreography of action and reaction that had unfolded. Lily returned to her station, her movements fluid and composed, yet her presence radiated a quiet authority that was felt rather than announced. Alexander exhaled, the tension from earlier dissipating, replaced by a measured respect, and a recognition that the outcome had been elevated by insight that transcended status or expectation. The executive concluded his review, signing off with a contented nod, the deal finalized with clarity and confidence. Lily continued to observe, small gestures of service executed with impeccable timing, each one reinforcing the sense of order and competence she embodied. Conversations around the room resumed, the background hum of activity now infused with subtle acknowledgement, the silent impact of her expertise resonating across the space. In this seamless interplay of observation, timing, and subtle intervention, Lily Harper remained a steady force, a quiet but undeniable presence shaping outcomes and commanding respect through intellect, composure, and the understated power of precise action. Alexander Vaughn leaned back slightly, his hands resting lightly on the edge of the polished table as he absorbed the full scope of the negotiation, now clarified. Lily Harper stood just beyond the table, her posture calm, her eyes keenly observing the subtle shifts in expression and body language, noting every micro-reaction that confirmed the effectiveness of her translation. The Japanese executive, pen now set aside, nodded with measured satisfaction, clearly understanding the terms and subtleties that had previously caused hesitation. Lily's presence was understated, moving smoothly to adjust a misplaced napkin and refill a glass of water, yet each action carried a precision that underscored the subtle control she exerted over the room without drawing attention to herself. Alexander's gaze followed her, the surprise in his expression giving way to admiration and a quiet acknowledgement of the depth of her intelligence and composure. He had assumed he held all the insight needed, yet the clarity Lily provided had reshaped his understanding, revealing the value in humility and attentive observation. Around them, the soft hum of conversation and the gentle clinking of silverware continued, forming a backdrop to a scene of quiet mastery. Lily moved closer to the executive, offering an additional clarification on the pronunciation and emphasis of key terms, her voice calm, deliberate, and confident, ensuring that no nuance was lost. Alexander's fingers drummed lightly on the table, a subtle rhythm that matched the shift in his perception, the recognition of her skill and influence settling in fully. Patrons remained largely unaware of the intricate orchestration unfolding at the corner table, absorbed in their own meals and discussions, while the air carried the unspoken acknowledgement of Lily's deft guidance. The sunlight, filtering through the tall windows, highlighted the subtle sheen on polished surfaces and the gentle play of shadows, reflecting the precision and timing of Lily's movements. She returned to her station, arranging silverware and checking glasses, each action fluid, intentional, and graceful, reinforcing the unspoken power of her presence. Alexander exhaled slowly, a weight lifted, tempered by the realization that his previous assumptions about leadership and insight had been incomplete, and that true understanding sometimes came from those whose voices were quiet, yet profoundly impactful. The executive offered a small bow of respect, confirming that all matters were now clear and agreed upon. Lily continued her attentive observation, a silent guardian of clarity and order, her actions precise and effective, shaping the outcome without fanfare. The room carried on, ambient sounds of conversation and service blending seamlessly, yet the impact of her expertise lingered, subtle yet undeniable, leaving a lasting impression of intellect, composure, and understated authority. The negotiation concluded, leaving a calm yet potent energy lingering in the room as Lily Harper moved with deliberate grace, collecting empty glasses and arranging menus with exacting care. Alexander Vaughn remained seated, his posture slightly more relaxed, a subtle shift reflecting the profound recognition of her quiet influence. The Japanese executive smiled, a soft nod confirming full comprehension and satisfaction, while Lily continued to observe, her eyes noting the micro-expressions and minute gestures that indicated genuine understanding. She approached the edge of the table with seamless precision, adjusting a pen left slightly askew and realigning documents, movements that were simple yet imbued with authority. Alexander watched her, the astonishment he had felt earlier transforming into a reflective admiration, each action revealing the depth of her capability and the unspoken command she held over the flow of the meeting. Patrons moved about, unaware of the intricacies unfolding, yet the atmosphere carried a subtle acknowledgement, a silent reverence for the skill that had shaped the outcome so effortlessly. Lily spoke softly to the executive, clarifying a final point with flawless diction and impeccable timing, the translation precise, balanced, and entirely unobtrusive, reinforcing the understanding of complex terms without any disruption. Alexander's gaze followed her movements, absorbing the subtle choreography that had ensured success, an appreciation for the understated mastery settling quietly within him. The sunlight streaming through the tall windows highlighted the reflective surfaces of the polished wood and glass, casting a warm glow that mirrored the calm and meticulous nature of Lily's presence. She returned to her station, hands deftly arranging the final items, every motion exact yet fluid, radiating competence without the need for recognition. Alexander exhaled slowly, the weight of realization clear, as he acknowledged internally that true influence was not measured by volume or authority, but by precision, observation, and the ability to act at the perfect moment. The executive offered a small gesture of respect, confirming the completion of all matters, while Lily remained attentive, ensuring that every aspect of the interaction was smooth, seamless, and precise. The hum of the restaurant continued around them, blending with the clinking of cutlery and quiet conversations. Yet the subtle impact of Lily's intellect and poise remained palpable, leaving an indelible impression of quiet authority and understated brilliance. In the harmony of observation, timing, and unspoken guidance, Lily Harper demonstrated that true mastery often resides in the ability to act thoughtfully and decisively without the need for announcement, her influence silently shaping the outcomes with elegance, clarity, and enduring impact. Alexander Vaughn finally straightened fully in his chair, his gaze lingering on Lily Harper with a new awareness, a subtle shift from surprise to respect that settled deep in his posture. She moved back toward the service counter, her hands lightly adjusting glassware and aligning menus with a precision that belied the ordinary nature of the task, yet every movement carried the weight of silent authority. The Japanese executive had concluded his review, nodding with satisfaction, pen placed aside, and his expression reflected clarity and confidence, a testament to the seamless interpretation Lily had provided. Alexander's eyes followed her across the room, noting the calm decisiveness in each gesture, the quiet command she exerted without raising her voice or making demands, a presence that reshaped the dynamic without overt assertion. Patrons continued their quiet meals, unaware of the subtle orchestration that had taken place, while Lily moved with fluid ease, checking a table here, aligning a set of utensils there, each act precise, deliberate, and silently effective. Alexander exhaled slowly, a realization settling that true influence did not require visibility, and that her intellect and calm composure had dictated the pace and clarity of an entire negotiation without her stepping into the spotlight. Lily observed a minor hesitation in the executive's glance, leaning slightly to offer a soft clarification, her voice measured, exact, conveying complex meaning with effortless ease and leaving no ambiguity in the room. Alexander's fingers drummed lightly on the table, a subtle rhythm of contemplation, as he absorbed the full impact of her interventions, the understanding that competence can manifest in quiet, understated ways, fundamentally altering outcomes. The sunlight streaming through the tall windows painted long reflections on the polished floors, accentuating the flow of motion, the quiet choreography of precision and awareness that Lily orchestrated. She moved back to her station, hands smoothing a folded napkin, adjusting a small cluster of glasses, the rhythm of her actions creating an invisible harmony that Alexander could feel without needing to articulate. The executive offered a polite nod of acknowledgement, confirming the agreement and the clarity achieved, while Lily remained attentive, her eyes scanning each subtle movement and expression, ensuring that the impact of her work held and the negotiation concluded without confusion. Alexander's lips parted slightly, a silent admission of appreciation, the recognition that quiet observation, strategic timing, and intellectual rigor had reshaped the room, and that Lily Harper's presence alone had guided the interaction to a conclusion both precise and respectful. In the subtle cadence of motion, voice, and observation, she embodied a quiet mastery that influenced outcomes, commanded respect, and left an indelible impression of intellect, poise, and understated authority across the space. Every gesture reinforcing the profound yet silent power of competence executed with grace. The final agreement was signed, and the room exhaled with a quiet release, a gentle settling of tension that had held the space in its grasp for the past hour. Lily Harper moved back to her station, her steps measured, deliberate, yet fluid, a soft rhythm that blended seamlessly with the ambient hum of the restaurant. Alexander Vaughn sat back, his eyes tracing her movements, a newfound respect reflected in the slight easing of his previously rigid posture. The Japanese executive leaned slightly forward, offering a nod of satisfaction, the clarity and precision of the negotiation now fully realized, each detail articulated and understood. Lily's hands moved gracefully, aligning cutlery and repositioning glasses with an exacting care that seemed effortless, yet each gesture carried the weight of quiet authority. Alexander's gaze remained on her, noting the calm composure and attentive observation that had guided the negotiation to its successful conclusion. Patrons continued their quiet meals, oblivious to the subtle orchestration that had unfolded at the corner table, while Lily's presence radiated a steady influence, her actions shaping the environment without the need for announcement. The sunlight shifted, highlighting polished surfaces and casting a warm glow across the room, emphasizing the serene control and meticulous attention that Lily exhibited. She approached the edge of the main table, adjusting a misplaced napkin with the same fluid precision, ensuring that everything appeared orderly. The subtle power of her intervention felt rather than stated. Alexander exhaled, a reflective smile touching the corners of his lips, the realization settling fully that the true mastery in any setting could be quiet, unassuming, and profoundly impactful. Lily's eyes met his briefly, a soft acknowledgement exchanged without words, an understanding that competence, intellect, and calm decisiveness could command respect more effectively than volume or assertion. The executive gave a final nod of agreement, confirming the resolution with quiet satisfaction, while Lily returned to her station, her presence steady and commanding through the grace of her movements alone. The restaurant carried on, the background murmur of conversation and gentle clinking of silverware blending into the normal rhythm of the afternoon, yet the room bore the subtle imprint of her careful guidance. Alexander's posture remained relaxed, a silent recognition of the depth of her influence, as he absorbed the lesson that true authority could be exercised without demonstration or display. Lily moved smoothly among the remaining tables, adjusting glasses and observing interactions with precise attention, each act reinforcing the invisible thread of control and clarity she maintained. In the harmony of measured action, keen observation, and unspoken influence, Lily Harper exemplified the power of intellect and poise, a quiet force that reshaped the dynamic of the room, leaving a lasting impression of competence, respect, and understated mastery that lingered far beyond the final signature. The room had settled into a serene quiet, the tension and anticipation that had marked the earlier hours now replaced by a soft, steady calm. Lily Harper moved through the space with a gentle grace, her hands lightly adjusting a final glass, ensuring everything was in its proper place, each motion precise and effortless. Alexander Vaughn remained seated, a rare softness in his posture, a reflection of the respect and admiration that had grown silently throughout the afternoon. The Japanese executive rose, offering a courteous bow of appreciation, a simple gesture that carried the weight of acknowledgement and gratitude, and Lily responded with a subtle nod, her expression composed yet radiant with quiet pride. The sunlight streaming through the windows now painted long, golden lines across the polished marble, illuminating the room in a warm glow, highlighting the subtle beauty of order, clarity, and understanding. Patrons continued their conversations, unaware of the depth of the transformations that had occurred at the corner table, while Lily's presence radiated a calm authority, shaping the environment not through command, but through the steady assurance of competence. Alexander observed her as she moved back to her station, the gentle sway of her movements echoing the quiet dignity that had defined every interaction, each adjustment, each careful step a reflection of understated mastery. He felt a deep sense of humility and respect, recognizing that the success of the negotiation and the harmony of the room had been guided not by volume or force, but by subtle observation, insight, and precise action. Lily paused briefly, taking in the room with her usual attentiveness, her eyes meeting Alexander's across the space, and in that silent exchange a mutual understanding passed between them, an acknowledgement that true value often manifests quietly, without need for proclamation or applause. The air seemed lighter now, infused with a sense of completion and grace, the careful orchestration of clarity, intellect, and human connection having left a tangible impression on the space. Every gesture, every glance, every soft word had contributed to a conclusion that was not only effective but healing, restoring balance and revealing the quiet power inherent in respect and competence. Alexander exhaled slowly, a serene smile touching his lips, the weight of earlier assumptions lifted, replaced by admiration for the subtle, profound influence Lily had imparted. As the final rays of sunlight touched the room, Lily Harper returned to her duties with the same steady calm, her presence a testament to the strength of quiet observation, intellectual clarity, and the dignity that comes from acting with precision and grace. And as the soft hum of the restaurant continued around them, the sense of justice, resolution, and quiet triumph lingered, an enduring reminder that true mastery often speaks in the silence of composed, thoughtful action. If this story moved you, take a moment to share how it felt in the comments or pass it along to someone who would appreciate the quiet strength of character and human insight that can change a moment forever, and join us for more stories that celebrate subtle power and dignity.